One of the strangest things in Islam is that breastfeeding makes you a relative. That's right. A complete stranger can become your relative by breastfeeding. This is your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim speaking to you about one of the weirdest rules in Islam. And it comes right from the Quran itself. Now, why would you need to make someone into a relative? Who cares? I mean, who cares if someone's a relative or not? Well, there's a reason why. In Islam, you can't be alone with an unrelated opposite gender person. So to be with them, you have to be related. Hafsa, the wife of the Prophet, used a clever workaround to make herself related to Asim ibn Abdullah. Imagine this. You want to spend time with a family, friends, kids, so you ask your sister to suckle them so that when they get big, you can be alone with them. Makes sense, right? In the following video, the Islamic apologist Farid calls out David Wood for stating that in one of his videos, Asim was a grown man that was being suckled, not an infant. The entire focus of this video was on the fact that we cannot use this hadith for adult suckling.
When Muhammad's wife Hafsa wanted to spend time with a man, she would send the man to her sister to be breastfed. We read in Malik's Muwatta, chapter 30, section 1, number 8. Hafsa, al-Mu'mineen, mother of the believers, sent Asim ibn Abdullah ibn Sa'd to her sister Fatima bin Umar ibn al-Khattab for her to suckle him 10 times so that he could come in to see her. She did it so he used to come in to see her. Hafsa couldn't breastfeed Asim because she didn't have children, so she had her sister breastfeed him 10 times, which transformed him into Hafsa's foster nephew.
Just in case you didn't quite get it, here it is again.
When Muhammad's wife Hafsa wanted to spend time with a man, she would send the man to her sister to be breastfed.
So I do know for a fact that this isn't true. So I had to check the Arabic. And lo and behold, the translator forgot to translate these 3 words, which translate to while he was a suckling toddler.
Now, if David was wrong on the adult suckling, then he's wrong. Personally, I don't know of any Muslims who believe that Islam allows this. You can't even be alone with another woman, so how can you suckle from her? It would be quite a contradiction. Nevertheless, he was reading from the hadith, and in the translation it didn't indicate that he was an adult. There's a bigger problem here. Did anyone even think to ask, what kind of nonsense is this in the first place? Why does Islam have this rule? It all goes back to the 7th century, nay, even before that. City Arabs used to send their children to be suckled by a foster nurse because they considered the Bedouins to be more pure, not adulterated by city life. In the Seerah, we read that Muhammad was sent to be wet nursed by Halima as an infant. Hence, even he had a foster mother. This created a relationship because the child would often stay with the wet nurse for a significant period of time, kind of like a long-term nanny situation. But like I said, this goes even further back, as far back as ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Why? Well, one reason was because wealthy women didn't want to breastfeed. And while they were breastfeeding, they couldn't get pregnant. The husband wouldn't be able to sleep with them as often and whatever. So how come in Islamic tradition, you become a relative? I understand you should treat them respectfully and they should be honored and compensated or whatever. That doesn't make them your mother. They didn't give birth to you. So because of the specifics of life in the 7th century Arabia, we now have billions of Muslims in the 21st century affected, yet the Quran is supposed to be for all times. Here's another contradiction. On one hand, the Quran insists you have to call adopted children by their original names because they're not actually your kids. And you can even marry your adopted children's ex-wives, just like Muhammad did, because they're not really your relatives, right? Yet breastfeeding makes you related? Even more hilarious. There's no risks from marrying someone who's suckled from the same woman as you, yet repeated cousin marriage has caused so much problems in the world, particularly in Pakistan and in some Arab communities. Yet this is completely allowed in Islam. Even Muhammad married his cousin, Zainab. But there's a workaround. Islam creates this problem of strangers and then attempts to solve it with this strange workaround that Hafsa used. I don't know why Hafsa wanted to spend time with Asim. I really don't. But in today's time, they use this workaround for adoption. Because an adopted child is not considered a blood mahram relative. The mother cannot be alone with her adopted son or a father with his adopted daughter. I actually know a person in real life who did this. a Muslim woman in the 21st century who tried to breastfeed her adopted son but couldn't because there was no milk. So she sent her adopted son to be breastfed by her sister who just had a baby. So technically she would now be his foster auntie. Only in Islam can you be both a mother, but not really a mother because you adopted him, and also an auntie by breastfeeding. I wouldn't even go into the harm caused by cancelling adoption in this video. That's for another time. As I mentioned earlier, Muhammad didn't invent this. It was probably a pre-Islamic custom and value, and Islam incorporated it into the religion. Many other examples of pre-Islamic customs and beliefs exist, such as the sacred months, Hajj, evil eye, and jinns. But this has got to be the strangest one of all. Does this come from the Hadith? No, it comes from the Quran. The Quran in 423 says, prohibited to you are foster sisters and foster mothers from suckling. There's even a hadith where a man was told to be divorced from his wife because apparently some lady came and said, hey, I breastfed both of you guys, so you're related, so you can't be married. Many Muslims claim that Islam is the most rational religion. Everything in Islam makes sense. Does this make sense? It's full of contradictions. It just creates more problems for Muslims. Islam creates hoops that Muslims have to jump through to solve problems that it itself invents. This mahram rule and this breastfeeding rule adds no value to anyone's life. Nobody's better off for having to breastfeed the adopted children, or even their friends' kids, which is even more weird. Back to the incident with Hafsa and Asim. Strangers shouldn't have to breastfeed infants to be around them when they get bigger. Is this something close friends should do? Here's my son. Can you send him to your wife to be suckled so he can sleep over at your house when he gets bigger? Let's be honest. Islam is not rational. Islam is a mishmash religion of pre-Islamic teachings mixed with Christianity, Judaism, and imported into the 21st century and believed in by those who don't know better. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new here. My goal is to hit 50,000 soon. And check out my support page to help me making more such videos. This is your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim, Abdullah Samir, signing out.